Welcome to Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. In each show, we share the latest about regulations and things you need to know, plus upcoming conferences and fests, along with interviews with the movers and shakers in this fabulous vape space. Are you looking to get into this ever-expanding marketplace? Do you want to master this industry? Listen up as Norm Bauer, the Vape Mentor, shares it all. And here's your host, Norm Bauer.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Voice of Vaping, Vape News Radio, show numero 2. We're going to call this the RJ Vapor Show because in a minute you're going to hear an amazing interview with the RJ Vapors division of RJ Reynolds. It's taken me a while to kind of get used to that because they spun off an entirely new division. So to give you a heads up, we're here all about educating and informing you about this exciting vape space. The big news, which was dated a few weeks ago now, but is very important, is the FDA finally coming down with these regs that we've been waiting for a long, long time. They came down on April 24th, and if you're following the vape scene, you've seen articles, you've asked questions, and man, we've gotten a lot of questions here. And truthfully, when you really boil it all down to the 240-plus page document, there really wasn't anything there that startled us, and for the most part, we think that they are heading in the right direction. So let me kind of go over some of the major talking points that the FDA came out with. Number one, which is one that we absolutely commit and adhere to, no sales to minors, no one under age of 18. So for those of you who are in the vape store business, please start carding people right now if you've not been doing that already, because this is one of the major contention points when it comes to local government. The local government is getting a lot of heat by the schools because they're finding kids in high schools and sometimes younger than that with all kinds of smoking gear on them. So it's really important that you honor that. If someone does not appear to be at least 25, make sure that they're 18. So here's some really good news. Right now, according to the FDA, no ban on internet sales. This was one that had a lot of people very, very nervous because there's a lot of people who are listening right now who don't have brick-and-mortar stores, but they, in fact, have online presence, and that's great. So as of right now, the FDA is not going to be interfering with internet sales, and to be honest with you, I don't see them doing that. It seems like when you get away from the brick-and-mortar and get into online sales, the rules are quite a bit different, and the FDA is taking a very practical approach, and they're staying the hell away from it, so kudos on that. Also, no ban on advertising, which is also good. So, as we talked about on show number 1, this is a little bit of a slippery slope because the government really doesn't have the right to be able to say what we can and cannot advertise as long as it's not offensive or vile or detrimental or anything else like that, because otherwise you're treading on freedom of speech, which is our First Amendment, of course. And so you're not going to see anyone really getting up in arms about bans on advertising. All right, the next on the list is no sample giveaways, which for those of you who have shops, you're probably cool with that because now you don't have to worry about giving away a lot of crap for free for people who are never going to buy anyway. If you're out there with a kiosk, if you're out there in a convention, that's okay because they have their own rules and you're able to vape in environments like that. But in a retail environment, in a brick-and-mortar store, pretty much across the country, let's just play it on the safe side and no giveaways. Another good step in the right direction, no ban on the use of flavorings. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. There was a lot of controversy over what the public deemed to be the appeal towards children, and children in this instance is anyone under the age 18. So when you start putting flavors out there like Captain Crunch and gummy bears and different types of flavors that are kind of related to childhood, there was a lot of people who said, hey, wait a second, these people are out trying to, ruin our children. And the answer is we are not. No one is. But right now there is no ban on the use of flavor. So for all intent and purposes, all that is going to remain as it is. There is some leeway to claim that e-cigs are less harmful and safer. Note, not healthy. You don't want to go into that very dangerous area and say that these are healthy because now you've kind of put that line in the sand, the black and white sand, and so don't go there. So we have the leeway to claim that e-cigs are less harmful and safer as long as that claim is based on science, which is awesome. Seriously, because we have all kinds of documentation, all kinds of studies, all kinds of reports that do in fact validate that e-cigarettes are much less harmful. It just so happens over the last couple of days I've had some clients in from out of state in for some training, and we were talking about the fact that when you compare a regular combustible with an e-cig, you have certainly a less expensive cost, you have lower levels of nicotine if you choose to, and you also have the ability to not inhale all those 4,000 contaminants once you put a lighter or a match to it. That's what really is causing a lot of these problems. New health warning. If, in fact, what you sell has nicotine, and some of you, of course, are selling those with zero nic, and that's okay, but you have to put a claim on there that says, health warnings note that nicotine is involved in this product. All right, so here's the one that is probably the most controversial, probably the most uncertain, and the one that's probably going to push the final regulations back further than anyone would like to see. It basically says that the FDA is going to review all products released or updated since February of 2007. So let's pause for a moment. So really what we're saying is that any new product that has been introduced since 2007 or any new product that has been upgraded or modified since 2007 is now going to be scrutinized by the FDA. So, guys, for all intent and purposes, that's pretty much 90%, 95%, maybe 99% of everything that's out there, because prior to 2007, there really wasn't very much out there at all. So the question is, what type of criteria is the FDA using? So this is primarily going to be affecting the manufacturers much more than the consumers. The consumers, they don't really give a crap because it's really not affecting them. It is affecting anyone who is producing juice. So the biggest targets in that agenda is big tobacco and similar producers of e-cigarettes. The reality of it is that the technology involved is a lot more elaborate. It's a lot more complex than in batching up juice. So the big tobacco companies and anyone who's selling any type of e-cigarettes, they're going to be spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to validate their materials and their processes and prove that they have a quote-unquote safe product. So here's the problem with this type of mindset. Here's the problem with this type of rationale. Now what's going to happen is that all these manufacturers that are now, I'm not going to say rushing to market, but certainly running very quickly to market, this is going to slow down their brand new introductions of new technology. As you're going to hear a little bit later when I interview RJ Vapes, they spun off a whole new division. They created this whole new line of e-cigs called Vue, V-U-E. And so what's going to happen here is this type of mindset is going to hamstring the technology advancements that the industry already has, and it means that they're going to be spending a lot of time defending themselves rather than improving what needs to be improved. If you look at something so simple as the computer industry, look how much technology has advanced since 2007. Well, the bottom line is that the vaping products, it is a technology device. It's interesting, as we talk with RJ Vapors in just a few minutes, they call it a nicotine delivery device. It's not really a cigarette anymore. So this is how the big tobacco companies are kind of separating themselves from what you would consider the old institute, the old industry of cigarettes. So the reality of it is that right now, the FDA has a 75-day grace period with open feedback. And so what they're saying is that anyone and everyone who is going to be, quote-unquote, victimized by these new rules and regulations, you have 75 days to voice your opinion with the FDA. You can call, you can write, you can go online, you can go over there in person, and you know damn well that we're going to be having lots and lots of people who are going to be flooding. So the reality of it is that 75-day period, there is no way they're not going to be able to extend it. So that 70-day period is probably going to be extended to however long it's going to take to hear all those voices. Whenever the FDA has this open enrollment where they basically invite members of the public to participate, I got to tell you, this is a very vocal audience, and so you're going to see hundreds of thousands of people flooding, not just big tobacco, but consumers and people who are vaping, for their own use or vaping in their stores or creating manufacturing. I mean, anyone who's in the vape space, if you're smart, go to the FDA website and voice your opinion, because all things being equal, all you're going to do is you're going to delay that 75-day period, and that's okay. As much as we really want the FDA to come down with a decision, even if they stuck with that 75-day period, there's no way that you're going to see any type of regulations fully implemented this year in 2014. So that's the big thing to talk about. And if you'd like to see the complete report at VapeMentors.com, I just put up a special report that basically says the FDA decision, what's really behind it. And all this is spelled out. You can read it. Just go to VapeMentors.com. All right, let's switch gears for a moment. Let's talk about some of the upcoming events. Here we are towards I'm going to call it the middle to the end of spring, and this is kind of like convention and conference season. It seems like we kind of start off on a lull with maybe one in January and one in February and one in March, and things usually start picking up sometime around spring, and so we have a couple of things coming up. One is one that I'm going to be attending in just a few days in Chicago called Vapor World, and obviously by the time you hear this, I will have come and gone, so I'm going to be sharing whatever happens out there on show number 3. Our publisher, Matt, was at the International Vapor Festival in Germany at the 26th and 27th of April, and he was sharing a lot of very cool, very interesting things that are happening in Europe. And so the European market, the EU market is a lot different than here in the United States, because here we have one watchdog, the FDA. Over there they have several. But he was especially excited about some of the very new cool tools that are coming out and the brand new toys that are coming out. For those of you in Southern California, pay attention. Or even if you're not in Southern California, pay attention anyway. There's going to be a pretty interesting, pretty awesome event coming up on June 5 and 6, and it's called Vape Affiliates. So here's what's interesting. I was asked to participate in this, so I'm going to go over and I'm going to speak on the millennials and the baby boomers and the Gen Xs. I'm going to talk about the generational differences and how to target your audience. So for those of you who have online presences, either because you have a brick-and-mortar store or because you have your own website and you don't have a brick-and-mortar store, this is one that I would love to see you go to. This is not going to be a big party. This is not like your typical Vape Fest with thousands of people. It's a limited attendance. There's going to be probably no more than 100, 125 people there. It's going to be the SLS Hotel in Los Angeles, actually in Beverly Hills, which is an amazingly cool place. It's very hip. It's very retro. And this particular event coming up is not cheap. It's north of $600, but if you can peel away $1,000 for this, for those of you who are really into online e-commerce, this is probably the event that you want to make a point of listening to and coming to. That's going to be on June 5 and 6. And again, when we post our show notes, we're going to have links to all these things. For those of you who are down in the southeast area, in Miami, we have a big event coming up on June 6th and 8th. And for those of you who are in the state of Arizona, in Tucson, we have a one-day event, which is kind of unusual, on May 8th. So here's the reality of it. For those of you who are just, you're vaping because you enjoy, go to one of the vaping events. If nothing else, it's a great chance to socialize. You get to see a lot of brand new vendors, a lot of brand new products. You get to sample a lot of things. You get some cool T-shirts. You get some great entertainment, and you really kind of get to see where the movement is going. And what I'm seeing is a little bit of a division between the types of events that are going on out there. When the vaping events first started, maybe 2-3 years ago, they were all just full of people who wanted to party and blow smoke and have contests for the biggest rings and what have you. Now we're seeing a little bit more of an increase in what I would call professional type of conferences that are geared more towards education. And for those of you who are looking to come to my event that's coming up in July, it's called Vape U, the letter U, the School of Higher Vaping. This is going to be more educational for those of you who are looking to get into the vape space, whether you're looking to develop an online presence or a brick-and-mortar store. This is going to be a great event for you to come to. And I'm actually going to be restructuring Vape U after this event. So this one is cheap at $97, and I'm going to guarantee you're not going to see it that cheap again, because I'm actually going to roll this into an online training with the conclusion, the finale, the graduation being a live class, and it's going to be significantly greater than $97. But for right now, again, I'm not looking for a large audience, somewhere around 100, 150 people. That's going to be in Orange County, California in July. So if you have any questions on that, just go ahead and send me a note at norm@vapementors.com. And if you want to give me a call, the number is 949-495-6162. Let me tell you a little bit about our sponsors. This show is sponsored by Blow, BLO Emporiums, and Blow Gourmet E-Juice. Are you looking to open your own shop with a turnkey package, develop your own line of juice? That's what Blow Emporiums and Blow Gourmet E-Juice does. If you have any questions, give us a call at 949 495-6162. So we're going to take a little break here. And again, we thank all of our sponsors. If you are interested in participating in the show, either as a guest or as an advertiser, just give us a call at norm@VapeMentors.com. And we're going to go ahead and take a break. Paul, take us out with some upbeat music, and we're going to be back in just a second. Do not go away.
You're listening to Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping, with the latest on the e-cigarette market.